Andy Lally, I love the fact that you and the Magnus Racing team have said, you know, we're going to change things up a little bit, going from your Audi R8 LMS GT3, Lamborghini Huracan GT3. Tell me about this, the thought process behind switching models in GTD, and also driving impression differences, knowing that what's beneath the skin, it's kind of the same thing, but outwardly, there's some differences.
The way, I guess, to start it off is Magnus Racing sort of needed a refresh. We quite openly just didn't have a great year last year, and there were a handful of reasons why we thought that was happening, and we decided to go a different direction on the manufacturer. The Lambo and the Audi are actually the two closest cars in the field, so as far as adaptation, it was like 2 laps. The windshield angle's a little bit different. Other than that, it's a very, very similar engine, drivetrain package, wheelbase. Everything is very, very similar. I think, and what I've been telling a lot of people is, of the difference from 2018 to 2019, I would say 30% of it is the change from the Audi to the Lambo, and 70% of the field change is the Continental to the Michelin.
Wow.
And so in reality, there wasn't that much for us to adapt to. We did a little bit of testing last year with the Michelin, so it wasn't like we were seeing something for the very first time. And the tires, to be honest, are relatively similar, so we didn't have to reinvent the wheel there, and we didn't have to reinvent the wheel changing over to the Lamborghini. So we're just trying to get off on the right step for 2019 and see if we can kind of get back to our winning ways. That was this is my 7th year with Magnus, and it was the first time. We finished 2nd and 3rd last year, but it was the first year that we hadn't won a race, and I can't stand that.
Yeah.
So I got to do my job. We all got to do our jobs and hustle, and this field gets tighter and tighter, more competitive. So GTD is the largest subscribed class at the Rolex and every other race that we go to. So you've got quite a field of talent to combat, and we'll see if we can do that for 2019 and get that accomplished, get that W marked off in that column again.
You mentioned tires. That was my next question. The move to the Michelins, again, haven't seen anything crazy different in terms of lap time, durability, etc. But what are some of the maybe more subtle things that you feel causing you to recalibrate a little bit?
To be totally honest, I mean, we're within a half a degree of what we run on the cambers.
Wow.
We're within 1.5 pounds of where we run on the tire pressures. You know, the carcass is a little bit thicker than the Conti. It retains a little bit more heat, which means it takes a little more time to get up to temperature. It's very, very minute differences. I think we'll see some changes in track times at some tracks, but I don't think you're going to see, we're not going to bolt the Michelins on and all of a sudden be right up the tails of the GTLM cars. It's a different tire. It's a spec Michelin tire, so it's not the GTLM cars run on what you call a confidential tire, and we run on what their spec tire, their S8 and their S9, the combination thereof, of what the GT3 cars run around the globe. So the GTLM is a little wider, a little softer construction tire, and this will be it really won't be too big of a thing. I don't think you'll see too big of a change. In the hot races, we'll all be sliding around, and it's going to get greasy, and they're going to go off. And in the cold races, it'll take a couple laps, and you'll see guys make mistakes and spin out and go off on tires that are too cold. So that's almost every tire, and I think already by the roar here, all these teams have this under control 98%, and we're making tiny little air pressure changes by now.
Wow. Last question for you. You have represented many manufacturers throughout your time in sports car racing. If I'm just talking general reputation in the paddock, Lamborghini is said to be one of the most involved, most supportive. First introduction with them, are you seeing and feeling any of that?
There was, and I'm not even sure I should say this, but I've known Chris Ward for many years, and he's been very helpful on other occasions before I actually got involved with Lamborghini at Magnus Racing. So Chris has been really good. The factory is, the most simple way to put it, is there's less BS between the people that you talk to at the track and the very, very top of Lamborghini, because they're very involved in their racing program. So you're not having to circumvent a bunch of people on the way up to the top to get an answer. So if there's an issue, or if there's even a thought process where we're thinking about an evolution or change or something, Lamborghini is very, very quick to respond, for all the way to the tippy top. So that's been refreshing and cool to work with. And yeah, I've worked with probably 6, 7, 8 different manufacturers just in IMSA through the years, between prototypes and GT cars and GT3 and GTLM and whatnot. But yeah, they're great to work with. And Chris, the representative here in the States, has been great.